Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address India's largest and first of its kind startup event, Startup Maham in New Delhi. The 44-day-long electoral process for India's general elections kicks in. Election Commission to issue notification for the first phase of polling. World Meteorological Organization report shows multiple global heat records were shattered last year, showing the planet on the brink. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says Earth's issuing a distress call. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address entrepreneurs and all stakeholders at India's largest and first of its kind startup event, Startup Maham, today. The Startup Maham is a forum which brings together stakeholders from the world of startups, innovators and upcoming entrepreneurs. The event is designed to foster innovation and entrepreneurship across India. In a social media post on X, Prime Minister on Tuesday said that India's strides in the world of startups has been phenomenal in the last few years. Startup Maham, a premier event showcasing India's vibrant startup ecosystem, is on in full swing. The event offers a unique platform for startups to connect with a diverse array of stakeholders, including venture capitalists, investors and potential corporate partners. DD India's Siddharth Bharadwaj gets us more.
Startup Maham, an illustrious gathering of startups, unicorns, soonicorns, investors and industry stakeholders. Entrepreneurs from across the nation have converged here, each with unique products and high aspirations. With a projected attendance of over 1,000 startups across the 3-day event, this serves as a prime opportunity for them to showcase their innovations and carve out a niche in the market.
As we all know that India has the third largest ecosystem of a startup in the world. The Startup India mission started in 2016, and at that point hardly there were 300 startups in the country. Today the entire ecosystem has grown and now we are more than 1 lakh startups in India.
From harnessing artificial intelligence in their offerings to presenting handcrafted treasures, each exhibit here narrates a distinct narrative.
Salam Kisan is a data-driven, tech-enabled end-to-end platform that helps farmers with better decision-making. We have an AI crop calendar. We provide drone as a service and soil testing 90-second service. We also have input and output marketplaces where farmers can buy products from and sell their produce.
We make paper without cutting a single tree. We make paper from waste cotton rags. And now, interesting thing we do is we infuse seeds in our paper and have created 2,000 plus products.
We have an e-commerce platform for artisans and NGOs. We helped connect them to markets. And we also work with them on product design, unit economics, and help their products become better and ready for corporate gifting as well.
Beyond just a haven for startups, this event also captivates visitors with its unparalleled offerings.
Really excited and happy to see all the new age startups here.
This is a great opportunity offered by the government to the people to showcase the small products, to put their talents out and to get in connection with the rest of the world.
With myriad startups seizing the spotlight on such grand stages, the future of India shines brilliantly.
Startup Maham is an excellent platform for the startups to showcase their products and collaborate with investors. It's a place where different ideas converge and visionary minds unite. With camera person Vishnu Bandhu, this is Siddharth Bharadwaj reporting for DD India in New Delhi.
And now we get to the latest on what's happening in India in the run-up to the world's largest democratic general elections. India's 44-day-long electoral process begins on Wednesday, with the Election Commission of India issuing the notification for the first phase of general elections on Wednesday. Voting for 102 Lok Sabha constituencies across 17 states and 4 union territories will take place on April 19th. The last date for filing of nominations is March 27th. 39 seats of Tamil Nadu, 12 seats of Rajasthan, 8 seats of Uttar Pradesh, 6 seats of Madhya Pradesh, 5 seats each in Uttarakhand, Assam and Maharashtra, 4 seats of Bihar, 3 in West Bengal, 2 seats each in Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya and 1 seat each in Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Jammu and Kashmir, Lakshadweep and Puducherry will go to polls in the first phase. In total, general elections will be conducted in 7 phases, with the final phase scheduled for June 1st. Counting of votes will take place on June 4th. As India gears up for a 7-phase election spread over 44 days, the second longest election in the history of Indian democracy, here's a look at India's history of elections that evolved over the years from using physical ballots to the EVMs.
After independence till 1952, India was run by an interim legislature known as the Indian Constituent Assembly. The Election Commission is an independent constitutional authority brought into force from November 26, 1949, whereas most of its other provisions were made effective from January 26, 1950, when the Constitution of India became effective. The first ever elections were held on the basis of universal adult franchise, which is associated with Article 326 of the Indian Constitution. It states that all citizens, regardless of their caste, education, religion, gender, color, race and economic conditions, are free to vote, and anyone over the age of 21 years old could cast their franchise. The voting age in India was reduced to 18 years by the 61st Constitutional Amendment in 1989. India has an interesting story from how its elections transitioned from voting via ballot paper to electronic voting machines and then to VVPATs, that is, voter verifiable paper audit trail. During the 1952 elections, a low level of literacy was a major challenge. There were over 173 million voters. Most of them had no experience of voting. So, in the first elections in India, the symbols of respective candidates were affixed on ballot boxes to facilitate voters. No mark was made on the ballot paper to cast a vote. The ballot paper was simply put by the voter in a box carrying the symbol of the candidate of their choice. This helped preserve the secrecy of the vote as well as enabled voters to vote as per their choice.
The ballot paper was replaced for the first time with electronic voting machines in 1982 on an experimental basis for by-elections to Parur Assembly constituency in the South Indian state of Kerala.
The Representation of People Act 1951 was amended in 1989 to provide for the use of EVMs. General elections from the year 2004 have been conducted via EVMs only. Thus, technology became an integral part of the electoral process. In 2013, the Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail or VVPAT was introduced to enable a voter to verify that their vote has only gone to the candidate of their choice. A printer attached with the EVM in the voting compartment prints the name and symbol of the candidate for whom a voter has voted. This printed slip remains exposed for 7 seconds under a transparent window and gets cut automatically and falls into a drop box which remains sealed. A VVPAT was first used in Noksen, an assembly constituency of the northeast Indian state of Nagaland, in the September of 2013. As a pilot project in the year 2014, Indian general elections, 8 out of 543 parliamentary constituencies used the VVPAT system. During 2019 general elections, VVPATs were deployed in all polling stations of the country. Election Commission of India believes that the introduction of VVPAT has brought utmost transparency and credibility in the EVM-based voting system and conclusively put to rest all misinformed doubts and misgivings regarding these machines and the voting process. Antara Sinha for DD India.
India slammed China over remarks on India's northeastern state, Arunachal Pradesh, in response to media queries on comments made by the spokesperson of Chinese Defense Ministry regarding Arunachal Pradesh. Official spokesperson of Ministry of External Affairs, Randhir Jaiswal, says that repeating baseless arguments in this regard does not lend such claims any validity. Arunachal Pradesh was, is and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. Its people will continue to benefit from our development programs and infrastructure projects. India has slammed the Uniting for Consensus or the UFC model for UN Security Council reforms, citing lack of African Global South representation and no change in permanent seat membership, highlighting China's conflict of interest in supporting no alteration in permanent membership. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ruchira Kamboj, point by point demolished the UFC model over focus on non-permanent membership and other points. She said this won't empower Africa or any other countries.
We have the models out for all member states to see. To say, let us agree before we start negotiations is like giving every member country a veto. And while vetoes may be used in the United Nations Security Council, we don't operate on the basis of vetoes in the United Nations General Assembly. Thus, when asking for an impossible consensus preceding text-based negotiations, isn't the UFC just vetoing the whole process and suggesting a my way or the highway approach?
On March 19th, India slammed UFC, and it says both feet of UNSC firmly fixed in the past. Speaking at UNGA, Ruchira Kamboj called for an expansion of council in both the categories.
The Security Council has been able to deliver on peace and security in the contemporary world with both feet, if I may say so, firmly fixed in the past, is a larger question that the member states need to collectively ponder upon. And for this, an expansion of the Council in both categories of membership is absolutely essential. This is the only way to bring the Council's composition and decision-making dynamics in line with contemporary geopolitical realities.
Uniting for Consensus, also known as Coffee Club, is an informal group of around 40 states that oppose the expansion of permanent seats in the UNSC. The 40 states include Pakistan, Canada, Turkey, etc. as its members and China as observer member. UFC aims to counter the G4 nations, that is Brazil, Germany, India and Japan's proposals for permanent seats. The ongoing crisis and the increased number of conflicts have highlighted the need for more representative, accountable, democratic, transparent and effective reform of the Security Council. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, delivered India's national statement at a third summit for democracy under the theme Democracy for Future Generations. The summit is being held in Seoul, South Korea. He also highlighted the key features of India's democracy, saying that amalgamation of ancient wisdom and contemporary values positions India as a mother of democracy. Jaishankar also talked about the importance of women's participation in India's electoral process.
By reserving seats for women in local bodies, we today have 1.4 million women, or the largest cohort of elected women representatives at the grassroots level in any part of the world. Our recent decision to extend 33% reservation for women in both parliament and state legislatures recognizes the fundamental principle that women's voices are indispensable in shaping the nation's destiny.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be travelling to Bhutan for a two-day visit starting this Thursday. The visit signals the importance attached by India to its ties with the Himalayan nation. DD India's correspondent Amritpal Singh reports from Bhutan's capital, Thimphu.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Bhutan on the 21st and 22nd of this month. The visit comes days after Bhutanese Prime Minister Tshering Topge's visit to India from the 14th to the 18th of March. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi will receive Bhutan's highest civilian award, the Order of the Druk Galpo from the King of Bhutan, Jigme Kesar Namgyal Wangchuk. Bhutan had announced the award on the occasion of the country's 114th National Day in 2021. The visit is expected to further cement relations between the two neighboring nations. India and Bhutan share a unique and exemplary partnership which cuts across various sectors like hydroelectric power generation, manufacturing, hospitality, pharmaceuticals, education. In fact, many Bhutanese students every year are given various scholarships to study in India. And also over 1,000 Indian ITES companies are training young Bhutanese students in schools like this, equipping them with IT skills. Infrastructure development remains a key component of India's developmental assistance to Bhutan. Prime Minister Modi will be inaugurating a mother and child hospital built with Indian funding.
In this hospital, there will be OTs, there will be neonatal, ICU. So you call it, all the facilities are now incorporated in this new hospital. So we are very happy to see that we have a now new state-of-the-art hospital funded by the government of India.
Now we have more facilities out here, so we don't have to go to Kolkata or anywhere else.
In strengthening the healthcare services of Bhutan, I think India has played a big role, because back in the day there were lots of patients who needed to be referred out to India because we didn't have the facilities that were required here. But in the recent days, thanks to help from the Indian government, we have brought in new equipment, and they have been helping us with the infrastructure. They've been helping us with technical expertise as well.
We are very lucky that we get support from India, and especially for the lives of patients, they make a huge difference.
As Prime Minister Modi prepares to visit Bhutan this week, the stage is all set for further strengthening the multifaceted relationship between the two neighbors, especially in the critical field of infrastructure development like this mother and child hospital, which has been funded by India, that the Prime Minister shall be inaugurating. With my colleague Neeraj Singh and cameraman YK Loknath, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Thimphu.
Serving as a spiritual bridge between India and Thailand, fostering a deep-rooted civilizational connection, relics of Lord Buddha, along with those of his disciples Arahata Sariputra and Arahata Modgayana, returned to India on Tuesday after being displayed in Thailand as part of a 26-day exposition. Minister of State for External Affairs and Culture, Meenakshi Lekhi, received the relics in a ceremony marking their return home. Millions of people paid respects to the relics, which returned to India amid full state honours during the exposition. You're watching DD India News Hour. Up next, we're heading for a short break, but after the break, 5 US states hold their presidential nominating contests on Tuesday. Donald Trump and Joe Biden notch wins in Ohio. Ex-president prevails in Florida, Illinois primaries. US Supreme Court allows Texas police arrest the migrants suspected of illegally crossing the border. White House calls the law harmful and unconstitutional. And Washington blooms with cherry blossom season.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to international updates. US President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump continued their march towards a rematch in November, with both the men cruising to victories in primaries in several more states. Meanwhile, a Trump ally in Ohio has won the Republican nomination for the Senate there, setting up a key race for the party to try and retake control of the chamber later this year. Ira Spitzer gets us more.
Voters in the states of Ohio, Arizona, Florida, Illinois, and Kansas have cast their ballots in the presidential primary races. The 5-state tally is the biggest number of states to vote at one time outside of Super Tuesday. However, with both President Biden and former President Trump having already secured their party's nominations, there was little suspense at the top of the ticket. Both men easily won all the voting states, although Florida elected to cancel its Democratic primary and award its 224 delegates to Biden. In fact, President Biden spent part of the day in the state of Nevada, even though the primary there was already won last month. However, it is one of the swing states that will ultimately decide November's elections. Both Nevada and Arizona, which Biden also visited, have large Latino populations, a demographic both candidates are trying to make a big effort to reach. While the presidential primaries were a foregone conclusion, there was a bit of drama in some of the down-ballot races. The Trump-backed candidate, Bernie Moreno, prevailed over two other candidates in Ohio's Republican Senate primary, winning around half of the total vote. That sets up a battle with the Democratic incumbent Sherrod Brown in November. Moreno's victory is more evidence of Trump's dominance in the party at the moment, although how that plays out in the general election remains to be seen. The Ohio Senate race is expected to be highly competitive. Ira Spitzer reporting in San Francisco for DD India.
The U.S. Supreme Court has allowed Texas to enforce one of the toughest immigration laws enacted by any state in recent memory. The measure allows police to arrest and prosecute those suspected of illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexican border. Punishments would range from misdemeanors to felonies and potential imprisonment of up to 20 years or fine of up to $2,000. Crossing the U.S. border illegally is already a federal crime, but violations are usually handled as civil cases by the immigration court system. Besides, the courts have previously ruled that only the federal government can enforce the country's immigration laws, not individual U.S. states. White House has said that Texas law will sow chaos and confusion at our southern border, while the Republicans call it clearly a positive development. In a statement, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, and I quote, SB 4 will not only make communities in Texas less safe, it will also burden law enforcement and sow chaos and confusion at our southern border. She also termed it as just another example of Republican officials politicizing the border while blocking real solutions. Mexico's foreign ministry has called the Texas law anti-migrant and xenophobic. It urged the concerned parties to address the negative narrative.
Supreme Court of the United States approved the SB 4 law, which is an anti-immigrant, xenophobic, discriminatory law which says in Texas that any migrant or any person who circulates anywhere in Texas can be detained by the authorities and can be put in jail or deported even if they have been living in the United States for years.
U.S. congressional leaders reached a deal to keep the government funded through the rest of the fiscal year that started in October. Current House rules require that lawmakers have 3 days to consider legislation before bringing it to the floor and pass it before a weekend shutdown deadline. But tensions continue as the nation's $34.5 trillion national debt continues to grow. DD India's correspondent Nick Harper gets us more from Washington, D.C.
Importantly, what has been agreed by the negotiators on both sides is really the last piece of the puzzle, and that was all to do with homeland security. Of course, the very contentious issue at the moment in an election year, looking at how to strengthen areas along the border with Mexico. They have now agreed funding that would run until the end of this fiscal year, so the end of September, along with 5 other bills that they had to agree on. In total, those 6 bills fund about 3/4 of the US government. It covers other big departments like the State Department, military spending, so the Pentagon as well. But we are still in a situation where we may have a partial shutdown, at least for a brief time. Now, midnight Friday going into Saturday, that's the deadline by which both houses of Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, need to agree to this. But we still don't have the full text, and only when we have the full text will that 72-hour or 3-day clock begin, which means that people in the House of Representatives will be able to look at the text and decide whether or not they want to vote on it when it comes up for a full vote.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Philippine President Marcos at the Presidential Palace in the capital Manila and spoke about the president's upcoming visit to Washington, where he is expected to meet President Biden and Prime Minister Kishida of Japan. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called United States and Philippines relations hyperdrive.
Our relationship between the Philippines and the United States is in hyperdrive. I think that new horizon of cooperation is also incredibly promising, but it's building on the very strong foundation between our countries where we have the same priorities, whether it's economic development, whether it's dealing with climate change, with food security, of course, upholding international law.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken hailed the semiconductor industry in the Philippines and stressed on the importance of strengthening ties between the two allies. Blinken emphasized on being given a tour of a facility in Manila run by Amcor Technology, a provider of outsourced semiconductor packaging and test services. Blinken's visit precedes a trilateral meeting in Washington next month involving President Joe Biden, Marcos, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The Earth is sending a distress signal. That is how the Secretary General of the United Nations has summarized the latest UN climate report, which has revealed a number of weather records that were broken last year. The report, launched by UN's World Meteorological Organization, has revealed that the planet is on the cusp of breaching the Paris Climate Accord's key warming threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius. From Berlin, DD India's Trent Murray reports.
This report by the WMO has confirmed that 2023 was the hottest year on record. It also said that the period from 2014 to 2023 reflected the hottest 10-year period on record. It's just one of several revelations which has led meteorologists who commissioned the report to sound the alarm on the warming of our planet. The scientists say that extreme weather last year wreaked havoc for millions of people and caused billions of dollars in economic losses. It also said key records on greenhouse gas emissions, sea ice loss and ocean temperatures were in many cases not just broken, but in their words, smashed. Launching the report, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the time to act was now.
Earth is issuing a distress call. The latest State of the Global Climate Report shows a planet on the brink. Fossil fuel pollution is sending climate chaos off the charts. Sirens are blaring across all major indicators. Last year saw record heat, record sea levels, and record ocean surface temperatures. Glaciers likely lost more ice than ever before. Some records are just chart-topping, they are chart-busting, and changes are speeding up. Sea level rises are accelerating, threatening coastal communities. And last September, Antarctic sea ice was 1 million square kilometers smaller than the previous record low for the time of year.
The report shows that global average temperatures in 2023 stood at 1.45 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Now that is just shy of the 1.5 degree threshold that was agreed in Paris. Scientists say that if the average rises above 1.5 degrees, well, the effects will be increasingly harmful for the people and the planet. The WMO says, though, there is one glimmer of hope, and that is renewable energy. Researchers say that new green power generation last year increased by nearly 50%, the highest it's ever seen in a single year. But experts say much more is needed to help hit decarbonisation targets. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. Bolivian authorities seized over 7 tons of cocaine hidden in scrap metal structures in a region near the border with Chile. 3 suspects were detained with charges of drug trafficking and criminal association. Authorities found the drugs after checking 2 containers in 2 trucks on their way to the Oruro. Flash floods caused by heavy rains killed 2 people in Iraq's city of Dohuk. Floodwaters raged through the city, leaving homes and businesses inundated with mud and debris. Residents had to shelter on the 2nd floor when a wave of water hit their homes. Dohuk governor urged civilians not to leave their houses unless necessary. Dries van Noten, one of Belgium's most famous fashion designers, will step down at the end of June after designing his last collection. Van Noten is set to leave after the next Paris Fashion Week menswear show in June. Known for his luxurious colors and avant-garde styles, Van Noten began his journey in 1980s. He grew after launching his own collection of menswear in 1986. Washington braces cherry bloom season. Amidst the blooming trees along the tidal basin stands Stumpy, a cherished figure among the 1,400 cherry blossom trees adorning the area's monuments. Locals participate in the annual blossoming season. A short break ahead, but after the break, aimed at ramping up national defense capability, North Korea claims progress in development of hypersonic missile. Hong Kong lawmakers unanimously pass a new national security bill which punishes offences including treason, sabotage, sedition, the theft of state secrets. Haiti is facing an ongoing wave of violence in its capital, with gangs targeting wealthy neighborhoods.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories once again. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address India's largest and first of its kind startup event, Startup Mahakumbh in New Delhi. The 44-day-long electoral process for India's general elections kicks in. Election Commission to issue notification for the first phase of polling. World Meteorological Organization report shows multiple global heat records were shattered last year, showing a planet on the brink. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says Earth is issuing a distress call. Taiwan's foreign minister says that China has built military bases on 3 islands surrounding Taiwan's main holding in the South China Sea. Joseph Wu added that Taipei is not looking to further escalate tensions in the strategic waterway. Both Taiwan and China claim most of the South China Sea as their own territory, but Taiwan only controls one islet, that is Ituaba, which Taiwan refers to as Taiping Island. Wu said that China and the Philippines have been involved in a standoff in the South China Sea of late, but the situation around Ituaba is also tense. China has carried out extensive land reclamation on its South China Sea islands, building major air force and other military facilities, causing major concern in Washington and around the region. North Korean leader Kim Jongun guided a ground test of a solid fuel engine for a new type of intermediate-range hypersonic missile as part of a program of developing national defense capability, state-run broadcaster reported on Wednesday. The KRT news reader said that the great success of the test allowed for the project to proceed under a timetable for completing the development of the new hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missile. KRT added that the test was conducted at the North's main Sohae satellite launch station near the west coast on Tuesday morning and afternoon. North Korea conducted a flight test of an intermediate-range hypersonic missile in January, which it said at the time used a new solid-fuel engine and also tested the operation of a maneuverable warhead. North Korea's test came following a drill between U.S. Special Operations Force with Brigade of South Korean commandos, which was held recently. The drills were conducted from a U.S. Special Operations MC-130 aircraft on the last day of the Freedom Shield exercises that saw participation from an unprecedented number of member states from the U.S.-led United Nations Command, which has operated as part of the armistice since the 1950-53 Korean War. Chris Gilbert gets us more from Tokyo on the South Korean and U.S. troops stage joint military drills.
The US and South Korea hold these drills every year. They've just wrapped up Operation Freedom Shield last Thursday, and beginning on March 11 for 2 weeks, they've also been holding bridge building exercises, which they also do every year. This involves a number of hundreds of personnel from both sides, from a number of divisions, engineers, fire protections, the tank corps, Apache helicopters and Chinook helicopters as well, and these are really focused in Paju, in an area very near the DMZ on the South Korean side, of course, and really focused on the ability to quickly maneuver across obstacles such as rivers in the event that infrastructure becomes damaged. It's a 180-meter river. It took them 3 hours to effectively build a pillared bridge, build a pontoon bridge using aircraft and across it into what would hypothetically be enemy territory using smoke screens. And they say this is incredibly important for momentum, during live fire and combat situations. The South Korean forces saying it's a great opportunity to maximize the interoperability of the South Korean and US river crossing equipment and improve their joint capabilities. And the United States saying that it demonstrates the power of the alliance between the two countries.
Hong Kong lawmakers on Tuesday unanimously passed a new national security bill within a fortnight of it being tabled, fast-tracking a major piece of legislation. The package, known as Article 23, punishes offences including treason, sabotage, sedition, theft of state secrets, external interference and espionage, with sentences ranging from several years to life imprisonment. Hong Kong's Legislative Council was first presented with the bill on March 8th, following a month-long public consultation. The new law will have extraterritorial effect outside of Hong Kong, giving rise to fears that it could be used to intimidate and restrict free speech in other jurisdictions. The law will come into effect on March 23rd. DD India correspondent Laura Westbrook tells us more from Hong Kong.
I'm standing outside the Legislative Council, which is Hong Kong's mini parliament, and on Tuesday, John Lee, the leader of Hong Kong, said Hong Kong had fulfilled its constitutional duty in passing Article 23, as it's known, which is Hong Kong's own domestic national security legislation. He called it a historic moment that was more than 20 years in the making. Now, he says that it will stand alongside the 2020 Beijing imposed.
All right, we'll get to that report in a while from now, but from here we take you to Bharat Mandapam. The Prime Minister is at Bharat Mandapam to participate at the Startup Mahakumbh. And in the bulletin earlier, we told you about the program. The Prime Minister is at the exhibition ahead of his participation at Startup Mahakumbh. And here we see Prime Minister getting acquainted with what all is at display. This is indeed a massive Startup Mahakumbh, because it is a gathering of startups, unicorns, soonicorns, investors and industry stakeholders, and entrepreneurs from across the nation are participating here and are displaying their unique products and, in fact, high aspirations as well. Also, there is an expected participation of over 1,000 startups, and this is a 3-day event that will be serving as an important opportunity for them to showcase their innovations. And what better, they have the Prime Minister amongst them, the Prime Minister at Startup Mahakumbh in the national capital at Bharat Mandapam, where we will see him participate at the forum as well. But at present, the Prime Minister is taking stock of what all is at display at the Startup Mahakumbh. Talking more about this Mahakumbh, then this is indeed a first of its kind event that brings together the entire ecosystem of the country, investors, incubators, accelerators, industry leaders from several sectors are participating. As we told you earlier also, this is a 3-day event from March 18th to 20th, and this is being organized at Bharat Mandapam, and the Prime Minister will be participating in the program. But before that, we see him at the exhibition hall, where he is being acquainted with what all is displayed. So a golden opportunity for the exhibitors there participating at the event, acquainting the Prime Minister with the unique products they have devised. Also, this is in fact an important forum because the central theme of Startup Mahakumbh is Bharat Innovates, and this event will also, apart from the exhibitions, participation of the participants, this will also feature mentorship clinics, competitions, multi-track conferences, which will be featuring panel discussions, workshops, and also a number of other activities that will be part of this Startup Mahakumbh. Talking of the third day, that is today, the event will also hold a Future Entrepreneurs Day, and the focus of this will be on cultivating the entrepreneurial spirit among the students. Now, this is a very important aspect that has been highlighted by the Prime Minister always, to inculcate the spirit of entrepreneurship from a young age itself. And the Future Entrepreneurs Day here at the forum is expected to gather close to 5,000 individuals from colleges and incubators from all across the country. So here we have participation of Prime Minister at the exhibition. The Prime Minister is at the exhibition, and what is astounding about this forum is that this is a celebration of innovation and collaboration. The confidence with which these exhibitors are interacting with the Prime Minister talks volumes about the confidence in the startup ecosystem of the country and how the ecosystem is blossoming and brimming. And here we have participation at the forum, and close to 1,000 visitors each day is the footfall that has been witnessed. The startup event is expected to have participation from more than 1,000 high potential startups, in fact, and the footfall of the visitors is much higher. But here we see more than 1,000 startups will be participating, and also the main idea of Startup Mahakumbh is to project India as a global innovation hub. A very important aspect Prime Minister highlights very often, because innovation and is in fact the crux of development and growth in today's era. And with this as the center theme, this Startup Mahakumbh has been envisioned as a pioneer event. This is being organized by ASSOCHAM, NASSCOM, Bootstrap Incubation and Advisory Foundation, TIE, and also IVCA together. As we speak, we tell you that a number of activities will be organized at the Startup Mahakumbh at Bharat Mandapam. And the main idea, the main focus of the Startup Mahakumbh will be to boost India's efforts to improve innovation ranking. The government aims to improve India's global ranking in terms of innovation and also hopes to get a booster from this, in fact, from the event. We also had R.K. Singh, Secretary, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, highlight this at the forum yesterday. And talking more about India on the global page, then India ranks at the 40th position in terms of innovation, and also the idea, the ambition, the focus of Startup Mahakumbh would be to move up from this ranking at the 40th position. The Startup Mahakumbh will propel the growth of Indian startup ecosystem as it aims to bring together innovators from across the country, and also this event is projected to be the largest global event of its kind. As we speak, we see Prime Minister taking stock of the exhibition, interacting with the exhibitors, and the exhibitors, they're proudly showcasing their innovative products, their innovative ideas to the Prime Minister. This Startup Mahakumbh is primarily going to focus on 10 key areas. Now, the areas are artificial intelligence, software as a service, agri-tech, business to business and manufacturing, biotech and pharmaceuticals, climate technology, deep tech, direct to consumer, gaming and sports, fintech and incubators and accelerators. So a wide area of fields that will be covered at Startup Mahakumbh that is currently being organized at Bharat Mandapam. The Prime Minister is at the exhibition hall at Bharat Mandapam, and this event, Startup Mahakumbh, will see participation from more than 40 unicorn startups. And what more important is that these unicorn startups, 40 of these unicorn startups participating, are valued at over $1 billion. Now, talking of these pavilions, talking of these stalls at the exhibition, these will have an underlining theme of AI, that is artificial intelligence, and also how it could be used to accelerate growth. This is the norm of the of today's time, artificial intelligence, and this event will look to help not only younger novice startups in terms of enabling access to investors, mentors and also other key stakeholders, but also it will be a boon to the mature startups, and it will enable them how to enable exit opportunities for their investors, in fact. This is also a very important forum because this will also give scope for the role of larger corporates to participate. There is in fact huge scope for private sector as well, the private sector companies to invest into these startups. So we're talking of not just participation of the startups but also investors here, and also this will give a boost to the startup campaign. Talking of the Startup India scheme, these startups are a result of the Prime Minister's idea of startup that was initiated in 2015, and this scheme, the Startup India scheme, was launched on 16th of January 2016. The aim that was done with an aim to promote and support the startups in India by providing bank finances, and today we see the startups blooming in the country, and how this forum will aim to picture India as a global hub of innovation. When we talk of the idea of Startup India that was initiated by the government, then this was majorly based on three cornering pillars, that is providing funding support and incentives to the startups of the country, also to provide industry academia partnership and also incubation and simplification and hand-holding of these startups. And eventually we see how these startups have grown over the years. And how the government has taken elaborate measures to promote startup culture in the country. For all our viewers joining in just now, these are the visuals we're getting for you from Bharat Mandapam. The Prime Minister is at the exhibition and he is taking stock of the ideas, of the products, unique products in fact, that have been displayed by the participating startups there. And also the Prime Minister will be participating in the Startup Mahakumbh. And this is a 3-day event starting March 18th, and today is the finale, the final day. The Prime Minister will be participating at Startup Mahakumbh. He will be addressing the gathering. But talking of the 3-day event, then Startup Mahakumbh had witnessed in fact record-breaking participation and also enthusiasm. This is, as we speak, we tell you, this is India's largest and pioneer startup event ever. It has, over these 3 years, witnessed unprecedented participation, and that in fact speaks volumes of the nation's vibrant entrepreneurial landscape and also fostering of innovation across various sectors. There are over 2,000 startups, 1,000 investors, more than 100 unicorns, more than 300 incubators and accelerators who are participating at the forum. And because of this, the event in fact has emerged as a dynamic platform for collaboration, networking and knowledge exchange all at one place. It has drawn over 3,000 conference delegates, more than 3,000 future entrepreneurs, more than 50,000 business visitors from across the country over the span of 3 days. And that is in fact evident of how the startup in the country, the startup sector in the country is in fact rising and blooming. There will be sector-focused pavilions which in fact showcase India's innovative startups across diverse domains, and there will be 10 key areas that will be in focus during the Startup Mahakumbh. Deep tech, agri-tech, biotech, medtech, that is AI, and also gaming. So these are some of the key influential areas that will be in focus during the Startup Mahakumbh. Also, as we speak, we tell you that this event has provided a platform for panel discussions, workshops, and also providing the startups with numerous networking possibilities and opportunities. Also, industry leaders, policymakers are also participating, offering insights into the critical role the startups play in India's economic growth and development. A very important highlight of the Startup Mahakumbh is the is the Future Entrepreneurs Day that is being observed today on 20th of March, and it in fact aims at instilling and cultivating the entrepreneurial spirit among the students. There are thematic pavilions showcasing sectors, in fact various sectors, and also engaging panel discussions on creativity, disruption in startups, practical workshops, mentorship sessions and startup exhibitions. So all in all, this is a powerful nurturing platform for the startups, evident of the intent of the government to ensure that startups rise and shine in the country. These are the visuals we're getting for you from Bharat Mandapam. The Prime Minister is at the Startup Mahakumbh. The event is witnessing a special visitor today, the Prime Minister, and he will be addressing the event in a short while from now, but before that he is at the exhibition and he is getting more on the products that are on display. "23 states are participating in the event, and the scale of the event shows how the startups are evolving, not just evolving, in fact, progressing and flourishing in the country. A very important aspect of the Startup Mahakumbh is to highlight the Indian manufacturing startups. This is one important point that has been highlighted by the Prime Minister time and again. Vocal for local, and also to take that to the rest of the world. The global aspect is also highlighted by the Prime Minister every time, not just ensuring that we manufacture for the country but for the world as well. This is an important aspect of the Startup Mahakumbh. The Prime Minister will be addressing the event in a short while from now, and this indeed is a golden opportunity for the startups to showcase their unique products that are at display, and we see the Prime Minister at the exhibition. More than 124,000 startups have been witnessed in the country, and this is in fact the result of the Startup India initiative that was launched by the Prime Minister in 2016 with an idea of encouraging innovation in the country, with the idea of encouraging and boosting manufacturing in the country. And also we've seen how startups have evolved over the years, covering almost every sector, almost every field in the country. The idea behind starting and initiating Startup India scheme was to build a strong ecosystem for, again, nurturing innovation and startups in the country. This with an idea that it will drive economic growth and also generate large-scale employment opportunities. And this has been witnessed of late, how this has led to a growth in opportunities, employment opportunities, and also how economic growth is on the positive trajectory when we talk of the role the startups have played over the years. Also, through the Startup India scheme, the government looks to empower the startups to grow through innovation and design. The Startup India scheme was launched on 5th of April 2016, and each enterprise will be providing jobs as per its nature of operation. And also a quick word, a quick highlight of the Startup India initiative. There will be a simplification and hand-holding of these startups by the Government of India. There will be funding support and incentives, and also industry-academia partnership and incubation. Credit guarantee fund will also be provided, in fact is provided, and also put all these together. All these measures ensuring every aspect to ensure that startups flourish in the country. And from here, we now take you live to Startup Mahakumbh. The Prime Minister is at the event, and we'll listen.